I think the lesson you need to learn is that ignoring disruptive technology is putting you as a professional at risk. Like if you ignore AI now, it will bite you in the back in a year from now, right?
Ignore the car, you stay on the horse.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
This is Focus Check, the weekly CineTech podcast.
Welcome to episode 85 of CineD Focus Check. Welcome, Johnny.
Hi, Nino. How are you?
Good. It's another day in paradise.
Absolutely.
And
actually, it's a whole week in paradise. That's how it feels.
Why is that?
Well, I think after the hype of IBC, there's always a bit of a kind of slowdown. On the other hand, everything is much too slow in the sense that we are working on so many reviews in a parallel way.
True.
Hopefully those will be ready sometimes next week. And we are really anxious to share with you guys our findings, but everything takes time.
That reviews, but also lab tests, which are also reviews, of course. We're working on, well, we can share. We don't know when we can publish them yet, but we can share that we have been working on lab tests for the Nikon ZR.
Nikon ZR, Sony FX2, Pixies 12K, and
iPhone 17 Pro.
iPhone 17 Pro, and also the Lumix S1R.
Which is not, we haven't published it yet.
Not yet, yeah, because the firmware has changed and then we went back to this and so on. So there's a lot in the making, and Gunther, like all of us, sometimes the time is a bit limited here, but we will make it eventually.
Also a Pixboom review and so on. I mean, but we basically, it's always this aftermath of these big trade shows when so much stuff is announced and we finally get our hands on the cameras. And then you have them for a couple of days and you try to fit it all in and prepare something. This is kind of the drag. It just takes time to get stuff finished.
That's right.
And especially the lab tests are, of course, it's always the same kind of thing, but we need to be so exact with everything in order to not make mistakes for this. So it takes so much time to actually get out any results. So which is why we are never the first that are publishing any results, because we only do this with production cameras.
We find the frameworks,
exactly, but we want those results to be accurate.
And of course, I meant Lumix S1R2, just to clarify. That's part of the to be exact.
So there's going to be, but don't expect all of them very soon. I mean, a couple of them will, trigger out over time, but it takes time. And but this week we did publish some stuff, even though we are preparing a lot more, but let's just dive into what we will talk about this week. So we'll dive into our review of the Tilta Nucleus-M II wireless follow focus. Now, this has been in the making for a very long time as well by a camera assistant we work with, Marcel Clean, who has used it on multiple productions and shared his findings in a very long 45-minute video review and a nice article that goes along with it. So we'll dive into that. We'll talk about a new MZed course that we just launched, which is going to raise some eyebrows, I think, but that's fine. It's on ethical AI video. And we'll talk about why it's important to use AI video ethically and what that actually means and what Drew actually dives into this course exactly. I mean, he is an accomplished cinematographer in his own right, and basically bases everything he does with AI on his own creations, and that's where the whole ethics part comes in. We'll mention I gave a talk, if you remember, in June in New York at BILD Expo, because they invited us, and I was very honored to give a talk there, and that is also a little bit related to AI filmmaking, and I was talking about AI workflows for filmmakers. Now that talk finally has found its way onto the B&H YouTube channel, and we published it. So I'm just gonna talk about that a little bit. We'll mention a major DJI Mavic 4 Pro firmware update that came out, which actually fixes two things that I criticized in my review, which is great. We'll talk about a event that Apple is putting on in Cupertino. So you are kind of invited for free to Cupertino. If you can register, they have to kind of. If you're an immersive filmmaker, they're doing actual in-person workshops there, also with the Ursa Cine Immersive. but it's also an online event that you can register for free and attend from anywhere, which is interesting. Sticking with Apple, we'll talk about, actually iPhone 17, we have it here because we're testing it, of course. We're talking about an iPhone 17 Pro trick that enables internal ProRes RAW OpenGate recording, which by default is not possible. I mean, you have to use an external SSD to record ProRes RAW, but somebody found out how you can trick the phone into recording ProRes RAW internally. We'll talk about a funny rig which turns your Osmo Pocket 3 into a proper camcorder. And my first question will be, why do you want that? Why do you want to make it bigger? But anyway, I'll talk about that. And we'll mention a couple lens news. There's the new Lensworks X65 spherical prime lenses set, which is coming out. And also the Cooke Pancro 65i large format lenses are getting a ship date. And last but not least, a new Libec tripod. But let's start off with a Nucleus-M II review. Now, Johnny, are you a user of wireless follow focuses?
Not at all. I mean, give me to be as small, compact, minimalistic as possible on my happy one-man band productions or two-man band production, and I simply don't use those things. But I know that you are a heavy user of such...
I wouldn't say heavy, but yeah.
Okay, you are a light user of those devices, and I'm really happy that you took the initiative here to talk to Marcel.
Well, we invited Marcel because he's a heavy user. As a camera assistant, of course, as a focus puller, he's on multiple sets all the time, and works with the C Pro from C Motion. He works with the RE solution, so he's very accustomed to those high-end follow focus systems that you really need if you want to pull critical focus. Now, the Tilta Nucleus-M, when it first came out, I think it was 2018, was kind of touted as price revolution in a way. It was the first system, as far as I remember, that was as feature heavy as the many of the big ones, but at a much, much lower price.
Yeah.
And
I think we touched this point when we conducted a factory tour at Tilta's. The two owners of the company were so proud in the original one, because that's obviously even took them by surprise, the success of the original one. So if you're interested to see how Tilta is working in general, I think you will find it quite interesting. But back to the topic.
We'll put the link in the show notes. Yeah, the factory tour that you did was great and just showed how they made everything. And which a very nice interview with the owners.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but the first generation, of course, it's a first gen product. It was their first generation of something at this level. And I remember we had it. We actually ran a written review also on this, and I used it on a lot of productions, and it had its quirks. I mean, it worked well for what it did, but there were some things that just weren't there fully, right? In terms of what it needs to do, what you expect from a high-end system. But again, just weighing performance versus price. I mean, we're really talking about a system that cost a fraction of what the high-end systems cost.
So it took 6-7 years to improve and come up with a second generation?
I think it was 6 years, yeah. It was a long time.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
Well, they took the time to take feedback.
Exactly. And it really was based on feedback, you can tell. But in terms of what's new, there is a few headline new features. Most of all, I think the most significant one is probably camera control. So for some bodies, and they have quite a long list of camera manufacturers and bodies that will be supported. But right now, a few are supported, and it's great. You have full camera control over. So basically, the camera assistant can, from the hand unit, trigger recordings, trigger all kinds of camera functions. That's very, very useful in a practical set environment where you have an operator and a camera assistant, and usually the camera assistant is actually the one to press the record button, for example. Yeah, and this is now possible. There is a lot of enhancements. For example, one thing that really I had struggled with on the original system, and I remember when we got the review unit, it was quite an early not a prototype, but it was an early production unit. We were struggling with the batteries, and it was really hard to source those batteries. I don't even remember what the battery standard is called, but it's these tube-looking batteries that are really not made for on-set use, and there's different types of those, and if you buy the wrong one that actually have the same shape and size, it wouldn't work. And I made this mistake a couple of times. So now they changed to normal NPF, the smaller size of NPF. You can put that in the hand unit, and you can put it in the grips if you use the grips, for example. You get they were called 18650 cells, those small ones. The other big innovation is you have an electronic focus ring. I think we have a photo of it here from the review. The electronic focus ring is essentially something that replaces the manual focusing ring, where you have to actually put on your marks, right? Your focus marks. So this works electronically, and it works remarkably well. I mean, this is a big kind of innovation, because of course it saves a lot of time on set, and there are no wrong markings anymore, because you just set it and it remembers. It's also, you can still use the old ones. You can still pull this off and just go the traditional way and manually put markings on a normal marking disc. That's fine. It's still available, but this is now available, and it's great. There's a lot of enhancements to the hand unit. You can change the direction. It's also for left-hand people and so on.
So obviously you're impressed, but Marcel, who worked with this on a couple of recent productions, was he impressed also?
Yeah, I'm basically reiterating what he said. You know, like he said, it's in for the money it costs. It's absolutely unbeatable what it can do, and he's really has to nitpick on things what he's missing compared to the higher end system. One of the things that he was sorely missing is playback control. You cannot trigger playback from the hand unit, which is something you can do from some other high end systems, where it's basically, you know, you have the director wants playback of the last clip. Because if you had that, you don't have to actually go to the camera to do that, because usually you literally could trigger it from the hand. It just saves time. And
you think it's a software update, like a firmware update?
It might be. Yeah, it might just be a software update, because a lot of the other ones have it, right? So
I just hope that they will be quick to release updates. I mean, sometimes it seems like Tilta is so busy manufacturing, let's say planning, producing, manufacturing, and selling so many other stuff.
Well, funny you say that, because they just released a firmware update.
Oh.
That's the funny thing. That's why actually we had to not delay, but you know, like we published a review a couple of days later, because they literally, as we were finished with the review, finally they issued a firmware update, which fixed quite a few things and brought some quality of life fixes. And so, for example, you can lock the touch screen and still use hardware buttons now. You can extend the sleep time from 3 to 10 minutes. You can disable auxiliary screens, because there's a lot of screens on everything right now. Yeah, you have screens on the motor and all different things. You could already disable the LEDs on the motors, because that, of course, can cause reflection issues and so on when shooting. They say that general stability is better, and also that the camera control interface now has a dedicated iris page, which makes the operation a little bit cleaner. And what's interesting, I mean, it was already in the review, like Marcel compared it to the other solutions out there and said, for this complete bundle that really has everything, I think you get 2 motors, you get 2 hand grips, you get the hand unit. It was like $2,000, and now they dropped the price even further to $1,500, and it's incredible. I mean, honestly, I don't think it's always great for manufacturers that are already kind of price breakers to drop the price even more, because sometimes it could mean that if you're somebody who invested in this, it kind of devalues your investment a little bit, especially if you rent it out. And for camera assistants, very often, of course, I mean, this is really still... Of course, I mean, you at a high-end production, you will probably still use a high-end system, fair enough. But for medium-sized productions, this is absolutely something that a lot of people will use. And It's just the fact that camera assistants will hire themselves out with the gear, and of course they can charge less if the actual acquisition cost of it is now less. So
I wonder if it's a
all
permanent
great.
reduction, because if I look at the B&H page, it says instant saving, $500. But usually when it's a permanent one, it's not necessarily the B&H is even mentioning that that's instant savings. But let's see. I mean, we
according
can follow
to
this
Tilta, it is. So
okay.
I guess it will remain at this price. So let's
Okay.
see. But yeah, so check out our review. It's a very, very extensive conversation that I had with Marcel here in the studio, and it's if you're into looking for a wireless follow focus system, this is definitely worth looking at because it's just simply the amount of features it packs for this price is unmatched by anything in the market.
Nice.
And also, by the way, there is an integration that's great too. You can even control the ND filter of the camera from it. So, for example, if you have an FX6 with a variable ND, you can literally use the variable ND control there. And I think it's, of course, also compatible with the Mirage ND, the very ND by Tilta, which, for example, was used on Adolescence and many other shows, which is similar to the LC-Tech thing that we talked about, but might be their technology, I don't know. But it's actually, you can control it from that unit. Yeah. So,
to the best of our knowledge, it is their technology, but
yeah.
Anyway, good to know, and we will also follow the price to see if it's permanent or not. And if you guys have been working with this device, share with us. Are you happy with this? Do you use it quite often? What else would you like to see? What type of enhancements that will be interesting also for us to share with Tilta in general, and hopefully make even a better product.
Yeah, so insights from Marcel Klein, a first AC who has used this on multiple productions. Just check out the review and link in the show notes. Good, let's move on to our new MZed course. Now we have to talk about AI.
Yeah, but it's like the more we are into AI, and the more we talk with people, I want to say something which is a bit harsh, if you don't mind. I think, and guys, do what you want with this sentence. Like me, hate me, it's all good. But it looks, especially after listening to Drew, the more capable you are, the less you are concerned about AI.
Yeah, I agree.
Somehow, it seems like that if you're kind of certain in your abilities to perform and do stuff, and understand that it's here to stay, and we're not now blaming anybody, it's here to stay, you want to learn more, and you want to develop, and you want to see how the new technology can work for you. And that's exactly what Drew made here, and that's exactly what we're trying to teach or share the information with you guys. Somebody who was or is very good in what he's doing, very capable, very self-assured that he can deliver. And then instead of go like, hey, AI, it's killing my business, he literally looked at it in a very close way and decided to embrace what works for him best. And you're going to elaborate in a second and make the most out of it. And according to him, he's already earning quite good in his new workflow with AI together. Yeah,
so for those who've missed it, we did a podcast episode where I interviewed Drew also in general about his usage of AI, and that we can link that episode of the podcast, which was like 2 months ago, in the show notes as well. At that time, he was still working on the course. Now the course is out and it's around 2.5 hours long. Now we have to say, this is, of course, a topic which was a big discussion when we planned this, that is constantly evolving, which means that the course also needs to be constantly evolving. So the plan is to update this almost every month or every 2 months with new lessons as new models come out, and use his approach and just see what changed and what works better now and what's different and so on. But the main goal of the course should be more timeless. As he says in the introduction of the course, most of the information in there will still be relevant a couple years from now, because it's talking about basic principles. And the basic principle of the course is that it's used as ethical AI and and we define what that is. So
what is ethical AI?
in this case, it's using AI that is kind of amplifying your own voice and not replacing it, right? So basically, he is a professional filmmaker. He's a DP. He's best known probably for the intro for House of Cards. I can play the trailer here in the background, and his work on West Side Story for Steven Spielberg and the NFL and so on. And he's a filmmaker first, and he only kind of discovered and decided to jump on those tools as a filmmaker. And I think that is the conversation we need to have in general in this whole area, because right now the whole world feels kind of a little bit scared by everything that's changing with AI. And that's not only in film, it's in every business, right? But it seems like the tech bros are taking over everything, right? You have the feeling sometimes as if somebody who has never even touched a camera can now make something that looks like, visual effects, high budget movie or whatever. But that's exactly the problem. And I think you mentioned this in the beginning. It's like, if you have abilities in the field, you will not lose these abilities because of AI. You should use AI to kind of amplify those abilities and not kind of dismiss AI and not use it. I think everybody needs to work with it. Everybody needs to familiarize themselves with it in our field also, because otherwise you will get behind, because I think a lot of things will change over the next few years, but you will be in a much better spot being at the front of this change if you are a filmmaker already, and if you're not just somebody who's starting out without any knowledge of the filmic language. And that specifically language, I mean that in a literal sense, because for all of those AI things right now, you need to use language. You need to describe what you want in order to get a result. And if you know the filmic language, if you know cinematography, if you know lighting, if you know focal lengths and blocking and angles, and how even to describe something, you're in a much better spot than anybody else.
So I just want to take it one step before even doing so. So Drew is actually training the different AI models on his own stuff.
Exactly, that's exactly what he's doing. So it's not.
Many of us do have already a lot of footage.
Mm-hmm.
From whatever documentaries or commercials or so many other stuff that we did in the past, so including photos, by the way, because he's also teaching how to take a single photo and make short clips out of it. So literally, and I think that's the real essence of this course, and also the, let's say, moral of the story, is to use your own stuff. And that's where the ethical part comes into practice, that it's yours. You're training the different models on your own thing, and then come up with a way to produce even more content to cater your customers. That's how it works for him?
Exactly. He's basing everything he does on his own productions, on his own media, and is enhancing it the way he needs it. So, for example, he's using photos from time lapses and modifies them exactly how he needs them to be, but it's based in real life. Of course, it can take any direction with your prompt, but it's always going to be based on your own footage in this case, which means that's what means ethical, because you're not using somebody else's creative work as if you're just prompting into a model and then just asking it to make it look like whatever Steven Spielberg movie or this and that actor, or because that is unethical, because you're kind of basing and stealing somebody else's creativity and just disguising it as your own. In this case, he's always using his own and kind of amplifying it. And he's giving very concrete examples of what he did. So, for example, there's a shoot that he had with an actress in a pool, and there's a couple of drone shots, there's a couple of photos that he has, and then during the process of post-production they realized, well, we actually need in the same setting, we need a kind of different angle that we never shot. So he's kind of managing to get that, and you can't tell. I mean, you see the edit and you see, well, this is a real shot, this is an AI shot, and this is a real shot again, but if you didn't know, you would never know. The ethics, of course, also allude to the fact that you need to be transparent about this. Because, of course...
To whom? To your client or to the end user? Because if you added a different angle, that was not there while shooting. So ethical to whom exactly?
Well, it depends, of course, on the context. Like if you're shooting news, of course, you need to be honest about it all the way through, or documentary or whatever. You like you say something is real, then you need to be transparent that something is not real if it's not real. And basically, you should always disclose when AI was used. And online platforms also demand this now. It's just no way for them to actually be able to tell if that's the truth. You should always have consent. Like if you use somebody's likeness or data, you need their permission, and that's true for AI as it is true for everything else. Authorship also, the filmmaker should remain the storyteller and not the algorithm in a way, because that's exactly the same kind of thing. And but we're already on this, of course. Since he started working on the course, we talked about Sora 2 last week, and OpenAI releasing this kind of social media app in the US and Canada. And we already see social media being flooded with videos that were generated through that. And it's incredible, because that, of course, it opens such an incredible can of worms in terms of fake content that's very difficult to contain. So the things he's mentioning here is just becoming more and more important, as this is now becoming so easy for everybody to download and generate that they don't even need to do anything. It's watermarked and the quality is still relatively low, but it's just a matter of time until somebody deletes the watermark and increases the resolution or whatever, and you will not be able to tell what's real and what isn't.
I have to say, when I watched what he did here, it's easier for me to relate because he's a professional and we are working in this field also. I personally think it's a little treasure. If you're interested and want to kind of look into the future, which is already present here now, this is really something to consider, because again, you get practical practice and samples how to. For example, okay, let's say that you have all this footage. What next? How do I move from having the footage into teaching a certain model to recognize this and help me to enhance it if I need, as you said, maybe different angles or so on. So all of those tricks and tips are in this course, and that's what I really liked about it. And in the end, I would feel much more prepared when talking to clients and being able to offer them something a bit different, maybe in a different price category or whatever. Maybe even ride a little bit on this AI buzz. I think no client would want to stay behind and still be able to earn money or good money from that. But I think he did really well in this course. Honestly, I think it's a really nice course.
I just like the fact that he's not focusing on any one particular model, because it's not about that. It's
not about a specific tool.
Exactly. It's like it's like you're not focusing on one camera when you do a course about shooting, and that's the same with this course in terms of models, because yes, the technology is moving fast, but the principle about all those models is the same. Just some
and the ethical behind them.
Yeah, but some of those tools do some things better and some others do other things better, and he is able to identify and guide people to what works better for which purpose. It's again, we're gonna update this course regularly, so people don't need to be worried about staying behind if they check it. It's part of the MZed subscription. That's why we are not selling the course individually, because as a subscriber you will always have access to the latest version, and we will always inform people also when the course has been updated.
One thing that I have to talk to Drew about, he's using the same exact background like us.
It's true.
Maybe
he was inspired by the podcast.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
No,
we had no conversation about what the background looks like, so he came up with that by himself. Yeah, but this is really packed.
Okay.
This course is packed. Well, I'm actually also thinking about, we can do these certificates in MZed. to come up with a kind of
You mean
certificate.
AI certificate that you're AI certified?
That you are an ethical AI filmmaker at the end.
Imagine,
like we can run a little test at the end if they really paid attention, and then if you manage to answer all those questions, you get your certificate. I mean, we have certificates for the ARI Academy courses that we have on the site and many others. So actually, people need to show this. If you are working with an ARI camera at ARI rental, you need to show that certificate that you took this course. So
I'm sure that if we're
same.
serious about it, we can create something. We like to standardize. I think our industry in general, things are moving more and more into the marketing perspective, like 19 stops of dynamic range. That's why we started with the lab test, because we wanted to standardize. Yeah. And I think last week we said we are looking for ways to standardize results with lenses, for example. How good a lens is comparing to other, because the prices are really crazy now with so many lenses around. But if we take it seriously and we think, maybe you guys, you can also help us here. What will be the thing that you would like to see or be certified if you're working with AI? What will be the most important thing for you? And this is not a certification to hang on a toilet. Sorry about this. This is really something that you went through a certain pipeline, that your customer and knows that you did something right in order to provide a better service. So this is something that might be interesting for you. Maybe we can work together on some bullet points and then develop it into something more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? It should really be kind of something that people should be respected in the industry as something that people took, and a test that they took, that they can claim that they are an ethical AI filmmaker, which means they abide by these rules. They do not, steal somebody else's work.
In other words, they don't steal, and they're being recognized for not stealing stuff. And that will be nice. Good.
Fair enough. Good. So this course is now on MZed, and we have an article on the course on CineD. Now, of course, if you are a subscriber of MZed, you have access to 64 other courses, 63 other courses, and hundreds of hours of other stuff, including another course by Drew Geraci on cinematic time-lapse. Of course, he's the time-lapse guy. So that has been on the platform for a while. So you have access to all that as a monthly or annual subscriber. Good.
Now, talking about AI, you already you mentioned at the beginning that you've been to New York, and you participated in the BILD event by B&H, which was very successful. But now they're spitting out different lectures that different people gave, and your lecture is already online.
Yeah. Well, it took them a while to put it online, but busy. I'm very happy that they put it online, actually. Honestly, I mentioned it before, just going to mention it again for people who didn't see. I was really impressed with the event in general. I mean, this is if you have a chance to go, I'm sure they will do another one. They haven't announced it yet, but if they do another BILD Expo in New York, and you have a chance to go, you should go, because this is really an event that's full of creators, full of filmmakers and photographers.
Is it for free?
It's free, and it's a lot of young people who are really hungry to create stuff. And in general, it's really amazing. It's different from trade shows where you have a lot of business talk in a way. It's all users, basically. And
nobody was trying to sell you anything. That's what you mean.
Well, yes, they're also trying to sell you something is not the main thing there. The main thing is really those educational lessons. So there's a whole floor of, I think, 4 stages that are running simultaneously at all times. So I think I was on the filmmaking stage, there was a photography stage, there was a content creator stage, there was a something else stage, main stage, and all of those almost all of those presentations over those 2 days were packed. I mean, it literally, there was not an empty seat in any of those lessons. I mean, also I was so happy, I was like, does anybody care about this? Because there was another AI thing at the same time, actually, as another one. And I said it at the beginning, is like, I'm happy that people came to mine, but it was full. I mean, in general, this show was so packed. So they had a separate floor, which was exhibitors, which is more like a trade show. So you were able to check out new gear. And I mean, I think I did the Manfrotto 1 video there.
That's right.
and also about a Hohem gimbal, for example. But in general, the main focus is really the education there.
So what did you talk about? Again, AI, but what was the main thing?
Yeah, so basically the topic was called Ready Creator 1. And the idea was also what we just mentioned before in context of Drew's course is I compared the revolution we are facing now with AI to the revolution we founded our website on, which was the DSLR revolution about 15 years ago when it started. And of course, it's different, but it's also similar. It's different in a way that it's much more comprehensive because it doesn't only affect cameras per se, it affects every part of filmmaking, every part of media. But it's similar in a way that there's
antagonism.
Exactly. There's an initial skepticism that was back then that really mirrors today's AI resistance by a lot of people in our industry and in general. But I was trying to make the connection of, like people should look at what happened. And what happened was really equipment became much more affordable. And we're in the middle of this now with the economic crisis in a way and the overall downturn of the industry where everybody's focusing even more on affordable means of creating even high-end productions now. And I think the lesson you need to learn is that ignoring disruptive technology is putting you as a professional at risk. Like if you ignore AI now, it will bite you in the back in a year from now, right?
Ignore the car, you stay on the horse.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And now, of course, there's the copyright and ethics challenge that we talked about, that is based on copyrighted data and so on. I'm talking about, the push against that which is a little bit too hesitant from the big companies. And I'm focusing mostly on workflows. I'm not so much generative video AI in this one. I'm focusing on some experiments where you can enhance as a filmmaker your own workflows to kind of outsource the things you don't want to do in the first place to the machine. And, whether it's a script breakdown or mood boards or storyboarding or creating 3D location scans with photogrammetry and Gaussian splatting, which, by the way, we will have another MZed course come out very soon about that. That's really about creating a 3D scene from any location that you're in a very easy way, and then use that as a basis for your blocking and actually decisions for shot list decisions.
Nino, when I look at your presentation, first of all, it really looks really very nice.
You should look at it with sound, though.
With sound. No, but I think we are becoming the oldest startup in the industry. And I'm saying this with I'm saying this with a lot of pride, because we always strive to do more. We are literally, when you are a startup, you really want to go to the sky. And I think we still have this feeling of like we haven't reached there yet, and that's why we strive to do better. But it's interesting, like to look at almost like our history and how it's almost duplicating itself with AI right now.
Yeah, that's why we decided not to, I think there's a lot of people right now in the industry who are putting their head in the sand and pretend that nothing is happening. You're kind of ignoring everything. If you report about gear, if you review gear, you need to also report about what's happening with AI, because it's going to affect everything.
Not only report, but also teach, and hopefully with our educational platform, we want to believe that we are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Here. Okay.
I'm also talking about automatic transcription, text-based editing, where we already have a small course on MZed now, and also the AI-powered masking. Like, it's become so easy to do video masking now. A lot of things that, were completely impossible only a couple of years ago in terms of even think about do this in a normal production where you don't have a VFX budget. It's now normal. I mean, it's really very easy now.
Okay.
So basically, not again here also, while I'm not talking about generative AI, using AI to enhance your existing workflow as a filmmaker, and just to save time, money, and also just be more efficient, essentially. So the key takeaway is that AI is neither the enemy nor the savior. It's a tool, and you need to use it right. And the challenge for filmmakers is always to stay curious, stay creative, but also stay in control. And I think that's crucial because a lot of people feel like the AI makes them lose control if you look at what it can do. But you need to make it do what you want it
like
to do.
that. It's crucial. Like crucial?
Yeah.
Crucial.
It's
That's exactly
crucial.
what Drew is
Exactly.
teaching in his course, to stay in control.
Yeah. So maybe we should put this talk also on MZed. Why not?
Yeah.
Good. Now let's pivot from AI to something else. Let's talk about DJI announcing and actually releasing a firmware update to the Mavic 4 Pro. I almost missed that, but decided to. When I saw it, I had to we have to report about that because when I reviewed the Mavic 4 Pro as a first look review, we'll put the link in the show notes. It's also embedded in this article. One of the things that I observed, which really annoyed me, was the fact that even now, you have these 3 cameras on this drone now. And you already had this in the Mavic 3 Pro. The problem is when you're recording, you're not able to switch cameras while recording. So what you had to do is always stop recording, switch to the other cameras. It took like a second or two to actually switch. It's not like on the phone where you switch and it's seamless and you can do this in the same recording.
But then you missed the one who was sneezing.
Exactly. You can miss something, but you always have to press stop and record again. Now, finally, they fixed this. So now you can finally continue to record. I think it's important because sometimes you are in the air, you do a wide shot. If you want to do a close-up, you're just faster. If something's moving, somebody or a car, whatever is moving, you want to be as fast as possible. So you want to be able to record various focal lengths in one shot, which you're now able to do thanks to this firmware update. And also, there was a point of criticism with vertical video, which was not lossless. It always was kind of framed, I think, in 16:9 or whatever. And now you can get lossless vertical video out of this drone too, if you shoot vertically.
Well, so interestingly enough, I see it's in stock in B&H. How come?
Yeah, so officially there was no launch of this drone in the US. Now DJI says that it's down to tariffs and custom hurdles why they were not able to launch it yet there. Now there are third-party resellers that have it, so that's why it shows up on Amazon. I don't know why it's on B&H, but they have it too. But you pay a significant premium.
If you compare it to Europe, it's crazy.
It's like $3,000 versus in B&H versus 1,734 euros. So that's around I think less than $2,000. So it's like a third more. And the same is true for even worse actually for the Fly More combo and so on.
And we don't know about warranty or anything. Actually,
there is no warranty. Like if you buy this in the US, you will not have US warranty from DJI. That's just something that people need to be aware of.
That was declared by DJI.
Yes, yeah. There's no because it's not officially available. They can't give you warranty in the US. So yeah, it's still. I mean, there's a whole DJI has been put on a. We've discussed about this before. They've been put on a blacklist by the Pentagon. So it's all a bit difficult for them right now in terms of new products in the US. But yeah, that's the situation as it is. So there are ways for US drone pilots to get the drone. It's just not easy or cheap or safe because you don't have the warranty coverage. Yeah.
Okay. Let's hope it will change in the future. Okay. Yes. Now we're moving to Apple a little bit. And
let's
Pro
move
Vision.
Apple Vision Pro. So Apple is doing a little workshop for 2 days and I just came across this on a posting on LinkedIn actually, that if you're interested in immersive video shooting for the Vision Pro, and we ran podcasts on this before, which we can also put the links in the show notes. They are now really in their developer center in Cupertino. I think that's next to the big headquarters. They are giving free workshops on immersive video shooting and also in general media production for the Vision Pro. And if you go there in person, you can kind of apply to attend. I guess they will have limited space, but it's free to apply and it will also be free to attend if you are invited.
Free to attend, you mean to enter those workshops, not that Apple flies
they won't fly you there.
Okay,
No,
okay.
I don't think so.
And those will be also online for free?
Exactly. The online you can definitely register for free. Now, of course, you're missing the in-person lessons because they also said for the in-person lessons they're actually showing you the Ursa Cine Immersive, which is of course good. I'm guessing there might be somebody from Blackmagic Design there too, but they will instruct you on actually how to shoot for the Vision Pro. But there is online. The whole event will be streamed over 2 days for free online.
Nino, you are much more into this immersive video production. Do you know anybody who works like this or with this or producing for that? Do you see any interest in this? Or
I see a lot of interest, but still of course the user base is quite small. But we see more and more of those kind of boutique use cases where manufacturers are buying a bunch of Vision Pros for the showroom to kind of immerse people into their kind of manufacturing or brand awareness. I mean, our friend Christoph Tilly, for example, he's shooting for ASICS immersive experiences for in-store stuff. I know actually somebody else did this for Nike. It's happening, it's just not an end user thing right now because there's simply not as many.
So what is missing in order to make it more accessible or more popular? I mean, it's just the price of the thing, or it's the technology and just people don't want to put anything on their eyes, or what?
I think it's many things. I think Meta has proven that the whole goggle thing can be successful in a sense that now they brought out this new generation of
with
the
Oakley,
Meta Ray-Bans.
Ray-Ban,
now it's not with Oakley. They also have one with Oakley. I mean, it's all the Luxottica brands basically. But so they just brought out the new generation, and you can see that I think this approach is probably more accessible, but it's a different approach because, of course, the one thing with the Vision Pro, of course, it's a singular device. I mean, it's like a lot of people are amazed by the technology. Those who buy it are like, wow, it's amazing. But many of them say, well, I've had it now for a year, 1.5 years, but it still just ends up in the drawer. Why? Because I'm alone with this. Like, I can't put this on in front of my family. You're completely immersed, but you're also out of the reality. You're not part of something. And I think there is a middle ground. I wonder what Apple's next step will be. A lot of people I don't know why this keeps popping up where people are saying Apple discontinued the production. I mean, that is something like a falsehood that kind of spread online like a wildfire, and we see this in a lot of comments too. What might be true, and of course that's just speculation also, that they have reduced production at some point because there weren't as many orders as they anticipated, or even stopped it at some point and then took it back up again. And people misinterpreted that they discontinued the product, which is not true. They did not discontinue the product. And I also know that when they run things like this, when they actually work closely with Blackmagic Design on making a camera that basically only produces footage for this one device, essentially, there is more behind this. They are not going to give this up easily. Like Apple has never been a company that plays the short game in a way. There's hardly any example of any Apple product that was discontinued shortly after launch. Maybe the Newton from the 90s.
I don't know, but let's do it like this. Same time, same place, episode 200, to see where this technology stands.
I think I'm just guessing, but I think we'll probably see a new something in this vision range from Apple within the next year, hopefully within the next 6 months, because I mean, I think everybody sees that Meta is kind of, Meta has a problem. Meta needs a hardware platform. I mean, they are completely dependent. They're this huge company now that have all this social media stuff, but they're really dependent on what Apple is doing. They cut off their app tracking anyway, with the privacy settings. Then I think they were thinking at some time to launch a phone. They stopped doing that. Then the whole metaverse thing changed to now those glasses. So they really want a hardware product so they can control the entire experience like Google and Apple can do. And let's see what Apple's next step is in this, because yes, I mean, the Vision Pro was as a technological concept amazing, but it's never going to be widespread. So, but they are betting hard on content production. So I think they will make something that actually lets people consume this in a more accessible way. They make it more affordable. Maybe they make it more accessible in a sense that it's not something that completely blocks you from your surrounding. I don't know. But I think we will see something from Apple in the vision range within the next 6 months.
Okay. Until then, let's move to the next topic.
Yeah, but let's stick with Apple actually. So the iPhone 17 Pro has a internal ProRes RAW recording, of course. Actually, no, it has. Yeah, not internal. So let me correct that. The iPhone 17 Pro has ProRes RAW recording externally. Now, the big difference is we already had ProRes 422 HQ recording internally and externally before, since the 15 Pro, and with the 16, of course, too. Now, what's interesting that since the ProRes RAW recording came out, you have to use an external recorder. We weren't quite sure why, because the data rates are similar. They're not the same. I looked at the white paper of ProRes RAW that Apple released a couple of years ago. It's variable though. It can be a little bit higher also. So there might be a processing reason, like in terms of heat generation or whatever, why they only allow this externally. But technically, it should be possible to also record internally. But Final Cut Camera, their own app, doesn't allow you to do that. Now, somebody found out, actually, that credit goes to Jason Wong, who's got a big YouTube channel as well. He found out that you can record ProRes RAW open gate, so the full
sensor
3x2 sensor size internally with a little trick, and the trick is quite easy. So basically you still need an SSD just for a second though. You attach an SSD, you kind of it recognizes the SSD, you start the recording, and when you pull out the SSD, it will still actually save the ProRes RAW file internally. So it's kind of not really a practical thing. It seems like a bug. It seems like something that was kind of missed when they developed the app. But so it's not really, because you will still need the SSD anyway.
But still, I mean, I guess the file sizes are huge. That's one thing. And then, of course, you are risking overheating and other stuff. You just have to take it into account. And maybe it's a bit of an overkill anyway to do ProRes RAW on an iPhone. I don't know.
We'll find out. I mean, we'll find out in our lab test and my review. Because I'm going to compare also if there's so much more detail in there now. Because of course now you have essentially 12-bit, right? 12-bit RAW versus 10-bit video. So let's see if you can pull out more details from the same shot. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so you can try that out. Somebody commented that it didn't work for them. I didn't try it yet, to be honest. But
maybe you have to pull it very fast.
I don't know. It's just a proof of concept, essentially.
By the way, why are you running with a white iPhone 17 Pro? The orange is so much nicer. Can we paint it?
It wasn't up to me, but yeah, basically, yeah. Well, maybe this one doesn't get scratched when you.
Yeah, we'll see. If it does, you don't see it so.
The cases are coming today, so good. Let's move on to a rig for the Osmo Pocket 3. So there is a rig now. Yeah. You have to explain this to me.
Yeah, that's a little bit funny. First of all, I guess you guys all know the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This is one of my personal favorite cameras for family usage, for sure. You're not risking any divorce or anything. I mean, you don't have to stage the family when you're running around in I don't know, Japan, Guatemala, Antarctica. Doesn't matter. You just simply shoot, and you can walk and talk and shoot and come up with beautiful memories. We also try to put it in a kind of a more professional environment. You can watch our mini documentary that we shot with the camera, and it's very nice. And the main selling point that it's really small, and you can literally put it in your pocket. And here comes somebody, and this somebody is Jeffrey, if I'm not mistaken, Jeffrey ZOSS, and probably a very nice guy from the US, running a small company, doing a lot of 3D prints and so on. And he's offering like a box type enclosure to the camera. So you literally put the Osmo Pocket 3 into this. By that, you are creating a much bigger device But then that of course means that you can feed it like from the power can be external. You can put a mat box. You can have a bigger monitor. You can literally hold the whole small DJI Osmo Pocket 3 in a much more professional way. So, when I saw this first, of course you go like, yeah, of course. But I don't want to rule. First of all, it's an initiative, and we really, really love when people are trying to do the most crazy stuff. I think only for that it deserves a lot of compliments. Now, if you read a lot of the comments, and I think that's also what I think personally, it can either be a completely crazy idea, which completely defeats the purpose of the original DJI Osmo Pocket 3, because now you have a much bigger device, so why not to buy a camera? But on the other hand, sometimes you really need something a bit bigger, maybe even to walk and avoid the duck movement or anything.
You're trying to sell this to me now?
No, I'm not trying to sell. I'm just saying that for some people that already have this device and they want to appear on a whatever production with something a bit bigger, just to look maybe more serious or whoever. Everybody has different motivation to appear differently on sets. Maybe this is something to look at. And again, I think if you can take the Osmo Pocket 3 very fast from this enclosure.
Here's a teleprompter, I see.
Yeah, I mean, you can do so many things. The only thing is you can't really switch on off easily because you have to rely on the app
Phone
probably.
Yeah.
But other than that, again, it's a try, and I'm sure that some people would love it. That's fine. As crazy as it is, not for me, I guess not for you also, but it's just another thing to look at if you like the idea of doing something with your camera. Crazy, huh?
It is crazy, yeah. But can he please invent something that makes big cameras smaller? That would be more useful.
That's one of the things that we have been preaching for years. That's why I personally love mirrorless cameras.
No, I mean,
no, I know, but just to ride on what you just said. We always treat mirrorless cameras as the brain. And around it, you can really build the whole rig and make it look and probably perform as a professional cinema camera. But what you want is to do the vice versa. You want to reduce it.
Yeah, imagine you have an Alexa 35 and you press a button and it opens up and it out comes something like an Osmo Pocket.
I'm not sure that Ari is in a position to invest right now in R&D of this, but that's a different story.
Or wants to.
Yeah, exactly. But like making a small camera bigger. You see this image. This is the one that I like most, actually. I mean, maybe you can point it out when you can you see the little Osmo Pocket 3, that's one, yeah. When you can see the Osmo Pocket 3 kind of blinking at you from the enclosure, which, by the way, that's how you can put an ND filter in front, because otherwise we always deal with very tiny ND filters. But yeah, check it out. Might be interesting.
It's a funny idea, and it definitely getting a lot of attention. So yeah, very cool. Good. Let's move on to some lens news. So what can you tell me about the Lensworks X65 spherical prime lenses?
Yeah, I don't want to dive into the lenses themselves because obviously those ones from Lensworks rentals already, we don't have the prices, but you can either buy them or rent them. And also the same with the Cook 65, what is this? The
Pancro 65.
That's right, Pancro 65. I think that what I want to take from that more and more companies are now offering large sensor format lenses. And this is something that it's really nice to see, especially that we are all waiting for the Fujifilm Eterna, GFX Eterna 55 to come to the market. It should be by the end of this month or November. That the lens selection in general would be much larger, and that's really great as long as those lenses and they can cover the 4x3 open gate. I think it opens a lot of possibilities. So it's nice to see that not only on the lower end there are many more offerings for Super 35 or full frame lenses by Western or Chinese companies, but also you can find more and more lenses for 65 millimeter, and that's nice.
Yeah, very curious. I mean, let's see. I mean, there's not enough lenses for the GFX available anyway. So.
Yeah, but again, I think the main thing here that those are mostly rental lenses, I guess. So we are still, maybe the tool itself, the GFX Eterna 55, is kind of democratizing large format filming to some extent, but the lenses right now are lacking behind, and that's where I see a lot of opportunity for companies, because right now what you see is a lot of Chinese companies that are actually producing full frame lenses that can also cover large format. That's how they are formulating their marketing, and we can see this is, for example, if I talk about anamorphic lenses, the Iron Star from Serifer is a good example. It's for full frame, but it can cover the 4x3 sensor size of the GFX Eterna 55. Just an example. And of course, this is a much cheaper lens. But I'm sure that we're going to see more and more Chinese companies that are really doing dedicated lenses. The more these large format sensor cameras will be popular, we're probably going to see more lenses in affordable prices.
Good. Let's move on to the last piece of news we're going to cover this week, which is a new Libec tripod lineup.
Yeah, so Libec is a private company from Japan. I mean, again, I want to encourage you to look at the factory tour that we did when they opened last year, the new factory. Ownership is very, very, very nice people to talk to. And yeah, I mean, it's relatively a smaller company that has to kind of survive among the giants, I would say, but they're very dedicated and they have good brains. They have really good ethics. They are very, very strong in Japan as a Japanese company. They also have a tradition, and I think their story is very interesting, and that's why I would encourage you to look at the factory tour that we did. But in this particular case, they came up with new lineup, LX7R and LX5R systems. Both are built on the older LX7 and LX5. Basically, what it gives you is more attachment places, so you can easily attach, let's say, a monitor to the tripod itself, or you have a detachable handle for carrying the tripod itself. Nothing is really earth-shaking, but this is just not a revolution, but more an evolution of the existing tripods. And I think all in all, those are coming in competitive prices. So just to check it out, might be interesting for you. The initial sheeting will begin in December 2025. That's why we will update the article with some buy links in the near future. But for now, at the time of writing the article, that was not available.
All right. Thank you, Johnny. I think that's comprehensive for this week.
Absolutely.
Next week we'll have more to share. Probably also some new reviews, also of a tripod actually.
Yeah, working really hard on the Nikon ZR. I tell you, that's it's very interesting in a way. Yeah, it's for me it's the hype versus reality. But we will talk about this when the time comes.
Well, the lab test is also not easy. Gunther is like so many raw modes.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Stay tuned to CineD for a lot of reviews and news, and come back next week. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Leave a comment or send us an email to podcast@cined.com, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.